Can a podcast be video? Well, on this episode, we're going to find out whether you should be creating a podcast as a video, whether it can be a video, whether you should make it a video. Let's find out. Okay, this is a common question. Can a podcast be in video? Now, there's a few different aspects to this. So first of all, the answer is yes. A podcast can be video. Video podcasts do exist, and they can play in Apple Podcasts. You can play them on standard podcast players. The answer, the real question is, should a podcast be video? So my first answer, again, is no. Well, again, the first answer this time is no. Previously, it was yes, they can be video, but now it's no, I do not think they should be video in general. And this is because the big advantage of podcasting, podcasting's strength is that people can listen anywhere, anytime, while they're doing something else. Now, this is why podcasting works for most people. It's because they can do it while they're doing something else. Driving a car, you're in the car for 2 hours at a time. You listen to a range of podcasts. You're walking a dog, you're mowing the lawn, you're cooking your dinner, you're doing your ironing, whatever it might be, you can listen to a podcast. Podcasting adds entertainment, learning, motivation, whatever it is, to that wasted time. And that is why podcasting gets such great attention. That's why, the attention on here on YouTube, you've probably dropped off by now. The attention is like 2 minutes or something. You're lucky if you can get people to watch a 2-minute video on YouTube. Similar with blogging. People will skim through a blog. They'll be gone again in 2 minutes. There's so many distractions in these places, on your website, on the video channel, on YouTube. But with a podcast, people will listen for half an hour, listen for an hour, 2 hours. Some of the best podcasts out there are a few hours long. Like Dan Carlin, Hardcore History. Can you believe that a history podcast that is 3 hours long, one person speaking on their own, and is one of the most popular shows out there? So that is the strength of podcasting. The fact that it is one channel, it's just audio, and therefore you can listen while you're doing something else. That is the main reason why I think you should not do a podcast as video. But why not do a podcast that you record with video as well, and then actually release bits of that video elsewhere? So this is the thing. I'm recording this on video just now, but there's no reason I couldn't take the audio track from this and release it as a podcast episode. It doesn't need the video. Like, you're watching me. If you're watching the video, you're watching me just talking to the screen. There's no sort of additional value added by the picture. So you could put the audio out from this as a podcast episode on its own, but record the video anyway, because you can then use the video for other things. So normally, podcast episodes can be quite long, 30 minutes, an hour, again, like we said, maybe even 3 hours long. You don't want to put a half hour, an hour long video on YouTube generally. People usually will not watch that long on something like YouTube. But if you have that video there, maybe you can pull out some highlights. So you could have your main podcast as audio, 30 minutes, an hour long, say, that's audio. But you might have a YouTube channel, which is, 2 minute, 5 minute, even 10-minute clips from that podcast recording. Put them on YouTube. And if you really want to do a video podcast, I'd argue you probably don't want to bother, because not many people watch videos in their podcast apps. They'll more likely watch it on YouTube. But if you do, you could still release sections of that video as a video podcast as well. The main takeaway here, I would say, is you don't want to release a podcast as video only. So you at least want to have an audio podcast that comes from your recording, and then you can use the video for other purposes, whether it's putting it onto YouTube, whether it's having an additional video podcast, that goes along with it, but you want the audio as the core. Okay. If you want more on this, go over to thepodcasthost.com. You'll get all of our guides. If you're looking to start a podcast, then go to thepodcasthost.com/start, and you'll get our full guide to starting a podcast, step by step, right from the start to the finish. And in there, you'll find out whether you want to do a video podcast or not as well. You'll find out how to make an audio podcast, at least. Go to thepodcasthost.com/start. Otherwise, I hope you follow along. Please do subscribe to the channel, get our future podcasting videos to help you run a most successful show. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.